Book 14, Odysseus in the hut with Euaeus. Odysseus now left the haven and took the rough track through the wooded country over the crest of the mountains until he reached a place where Athena had said that he would find the swineherd, who was the most thrifty servant he had. He found him sitting in front of his hut, which was by the yards that he had built on the side which he could see from far. He had made them spacious and fair to see, with a free run for the pigs all around him. He had built them during his master's absence of stones which he had gathered out of the ground without saying anything to Penelope or Learchus. He had fenced them on the top of thorn bushes. Outside the yard he had run a strong fence of oaken posts, split and pretty close together, while inside he had built 12 sties, near one another for the sows to lie in. They were 50 pigs wallowing in each sty, all of them breeding sows, but the boars slept outside and were much fewer in number, for the suitors kept on eating them, and the swineherd had to send them the best he had continually. There were 360 boar pigs and herdsmen, 4 hounds, which were as fierce as wolves, slept always with them. The swineherd was at the moment cutting out a pair of sandals from a good stout ox hide. 3 of his men were out herding the pigs in one place or another, and he had sent forth to town with a boar that he had been forced to send the suitors that had might sacrifice it and have their fill of meat. When the hounds saw Odysseus, they set up a furious barking and flew at him. But Odysseus was cunning enough to sit down and lose his hold on the stick that he had in his hand, so he would have been torn by them in his own homestead had not the swineherd to drop his ox hide, rushed full speed through the gate of the yard and driven the dogs off by shouting and throwing stones at them. Then he said to Odysseus, "Old man, the dogs were likely to have made short work of you, and then you would have got me into trouble. The gods have given me quite enough worries without that, for I have lost the best of masters, and am in continual grief on his account. I have to attend swine for other people to eat, while he, if he yet lives to see the light of day, is starving in some distant land. But come inside, and when you have your fill of bread and wine, tell me where you have come from, and all your misfortunes." On this the swineherd led the way into a hut and bade him sit down. He strewed a good bed of rushes upon the floor, and on the top of this he threw the shaggy chowsme skin, a great thick one, on which he used to sleep by night. Odysseus was pleased at being made thus welcome, and said, "May Zeus, sir, and the rest of the gods grant you your heart's desire in return for the kind in which you have received me." To this he answered, "O swineherd, Euaeus, stranger, though still poor man should come here, it would not be right for me to insult temporal strangers and beggars are from Zeus. You may take what you can get and be thankful, for servants live in fear when you have young lords for their masters, and this is my misfortune now, for heaven has hindered the return of him who would have always good to me, giving me something of my own, a house, a piece of land, a good-looking wife, and all else that a liberal master allows a servant who has worked hard for him, and whose labor the gods have prospered as they have mine in the situation which I hold. If my master has grown old here, it would have done great things by me, but he is gone, and I wish that Helen's whole race were utterly destroyed, for she has been the death of many a good man. It was this matter that took my master to Ilius, the land of noble steeds, to fight the Trojans in the cause of King Agamemnon. As he spoke, he bound his girdle around him, and went to the sties where the young sucking pigs were penned. He picked out 2 which he brought back with him and sacrificed. He singed them, cut them up, and spitted them. When the meat was cooked, he brought it all in and set before Odysseus, hot and still on the spit, whereon Odysseus sprinkled a number of the white barley meal. The swineherd then mixed wine in a bowl of ivy wood, and taking a seat opposite Odysseus, told him to begin. "All to stranger," said he, on a dish of the servant's fork. "The fat pigs have to go to the suitors, who eat them up without shame or scruple, for the blessed gods love not such shameful doings in respect of those who do what is lawful and right. Even the fierce freebooters who go raiding on other people's land, and Zeus gives them their spoil. Even then they have filled their ships and have got home again, live conscious, stricken, and look fearfully for judgment. But some god seems to have told these people that Odysseus is dead and gone. They will not therefore go back to their own homes and make their offerings to marriage in the usual way, but waste his estate by force, without fear or stint, not a day or night comes out of heaven. They sacrifice not a victim, nor only 2, but they take the ruin of his wine, for he was exceedingly rich. No other great man, either in Ithaca or in the mainland, is rich as he was. He had as many as 20 men put together. I will tell you what he had. There were 12 herds of cattle on the mainland, and as many flocks of sheep. There are also 12 droves of pigs, while his own men and hired strangers feed him 12 widely springing herds of goats. Here in Ithaca he runs even large flocks of goats on the far end of the island, and they are in the charge of the excellent goat herds. Each one of the sends the suitors the best goats in that flock every day. As for myself, I am in charge of the pigs, for you see here, I have to keep picking up the best I have and sending it to them." This was the story of Odysseus, who went on eating and drinking ravenously without a word, rooting his revenge. When he had eaten enough, he was satisfied. And the swineherd took the bowl from which he was usually drank, filled it with his wine, and gave it to Odysseus, who was pleased, and said, as he took it in his hands, "My friend, who is the master of yours, and who brought you, and paid for you so rich and powerful as you tell me, you say he perished in the cause of King Agamemnon. Tell me who he was, in case I may have met with such a person. Zeus and other gods know, that I may be able to give you news of him, for I have traveled much." Euaeus answered, "Old man, no traveler who comes here and news will get Odysseus' wife and son to believe his story. Nevertheless, tramps and want of a lodging keep coming with the mouths full of lies, and not a word of truth. Everyone who finds his way to Ithaca goes but to his mistress and tells her falsehoods, whereon she takes them in and makes much of them, and asks of them manner of questions, crying all the time as women will, when they have lost their husbands. And you too, old man, for a shirt and cloak would doubtless make up a very pretty story. But the wolves and birds of prey have long since torn Odysseus to pieces, where the fishes of the sea have eaten him, and his bones are lying buried deep in sand upon some foreign shore. He is dead and gone. The bad business is it for all his friends, for me especially. Go where I may, I shall never find so good a master, not even if I were to go home to my mother and father, where I was bred and born. I do not much care, however, my parents now, though I should dearly like to see them again in my own country. It is the loss of Odysseus that grieves me the most. I cannot of him who had reverence, though he is that here no longer, for he very fond of me, and took such care of me, that whenever he may, I shall always honor his memory." My friend, replied Odysseus, you are very positive and very hard of belief about your master's coming home again. Nevertheless, I will not merely say, but will swear that he is coming. Do not give me anything for my news till he has actually come. You may then give me a shirt and cloak panel until 10 then, for I hate a man even as I hate hellfire, who lets his poverty and tempts him into lying. I swear by King Zeus, by the rights of hospitality, and by the hearth of Odysseus, to which I have now come, and that will surely happen as I have said it will. Odysseus will return himself 7 years with the end of the moon, and the beginning of the next he will be here to do vengeance on all those who ill treating his wife and son. To this you answered, O swineherd, you and me, yes. Old man, you will neither get paid for bringing good news nor let Odysseus come home again, drink your wine in peace, and let us talk about something else. Do not keep on reminding me of all this. It always pains me when anyone speaks about my honored master as your rose. We will let it alone, that I will only wish you may come to as Penelope, his old father Laertes, and his son Telemachus. Fast into manhood and bade fair to no words, man, face and figure than his father. But someone, either good or man, has been unsettling his mind, so he has gone off to Pylos to try and get news of his father, and the suitors are lying in wait for him as he is coming home, hope of leaving the house of our C3 CCSs without our name in Ithaca. But let us say no more about him, and leave him to take him else, or else escape. The son of Cronos holds his hand over him to protect him. And now, old man, tell me your own story. Tell me also, for I want to know who you are and where you come from. Tell me of your town and parents, what manner of ship you came in, and how crew the bow brought you to Ithaca. From the country they profess to come, for you cannot have come by land. And Odysseus answered, I will tell you all about it. If there were meat and wine enough, and we could stay here in your hut, with nothing to do but to eat and drink while others go to their work, I could easily talk on for a whole 12 months, and without ever furnishing the story and the sorrows which wishes pleased, with him to visit me. I am by birth a Cretan. My father was a wealthy man who had many sons born in marriage and a concubine. Nevertheless, my father Castor, son of Hylax, whose lineage I claim, and who else inherit highest honor among the Cretans for that wealth and prosperity and the valor of his sons, put me on the same level with my brothers who had been born in wedlock. When, however, death took him into the house of Hades, his sons divided his estate and cast lots of their shares, and then they gave him a holding and also a little sum. Nevertheless, my valor enabled me to marry into a rich family, for I was even to rag and returning on the field of battle. It was all over now still if you took a little straw, and you see what the ear was. For I have trouble enough to spare, and Ares and Athena made me doughty in war. And when I had death so much as a thought, that was at first to leap forward and spear all whom I could overtake, such was I in battle, that I did not care in farm work, nor the frugal home life of those who would bring up children. My delight was in ships, fighting, javelins, and arrows, things that most men shudder to think of. But one man likes one thing and another, and this was where I was naturally inclined to. Before the Pyrrhians went to Troy, 9 times was I in command of men in ships and foreign service, and I amassed much wealth. I had picked the spoil in the first instance, and was much more allotted to me later on. My house grew apace, and I became a great man among the Cretans, but when Zeus counseled the terrible expedition in which so many perished, the people required me and Idomeneus to leave the ships at Troy, and there was no way out of it, for they insisted on doing so. There we fought for 9 whole years, but in the 10th we sacked the city of Priam, and sailed home again as heaven dispersed us. Then it was that Zeus devised evil against me. I spent about 1 month happily with my children, wife, and property, and I conceived the idea of making a descent on Egypt, so I fitted out a fine fleet and manned it. I had 9 ships, my people flocked to fill them for 6 days, and I and my men made feast, and I found them many victims both for sacrifice to the gods and for themselves. But on the 7th day we went on board and set sail from Crete, with a fair north wind behind us, so that we were down a river. Nothing went ill with any of our ships, and we had no sickness on board, but we were and let the ships go with the wind, and steersmen took them. On the 5th day we reached the river Aegyptias, where I stationed my ships in the river, bidding my men stay by them and keep guard over them, while I sent our scouts to recognition from every point of vantage. But the men disobeyed my orders and took to their own devices.